There was one mysterious place in the world where all who wished could undergo trials and become much stronger than they were before. The people who decided to embark on this journey were very excited, realizing that their adventure would start from here. They realized that it could be dangerous, but despite the risks, they wanted to achieve their goals in life. One of these daredevils turned out to be our protagonist named Dylan. He was a cheerful and good-natured fellow who realized that he had come to this place to keep a promise made to his father. Soon, they all met a real guide who was ready to teach the newly arrived players. He told them of a staircase wall at the end of the world, at the top of which you can get anything you want. The guide stood in front of the people and said, "And they must have traveled a long way to get to this place." He congratulates them on having overcome this initial stage. He then decided to elaborate on the location. The first step and the first location of the stairwell is a high-level pawn, and he will be responsible for conducting the trial at this level. The guide also introduced himself. His name is Kyle, and he will be introduced to all of them throughout the trials. Kyle continued that surely they had all heard the rumors that whoever reached the end and received the gift of knowledge would be able to fulfill their every wish. That's probably why each of them had traveled this long way, to reach the end of the world. And though the end of the stairwell has not yet been reached, added the lad, that they may be the first to reach it. So they, the guides, have high hopes for them all. Kyle raised his hand and said, whether the stories were true or not, he wouldn't be able to say for sure. But only the player who gets to the end will know that wish fulfillment really exists, the guide added. He would like to believe that the day when they would know the answer would come. So he would not tell them any stories, for it was pointless. After those words, Kyle snapped his fingers and the first test began. The guide soared into the air, much to the surprise of all present. They had never seen a man able to fly before. Everyone thought it was crazy, and one of the guys even expressed out loud his surprise at what was happening. He totally didn't expect to see something like that right in front of him. The thing is, the challenge didn't start with a great boss, but with a monster that people had to defeat to advance to the next level. The terrifying monster was coming closer and closer to them, and no one understood why they should fight such a creature. Kyle explained, the first stage test should be at least at that level of difficulty so those can move on. Then he asked, did they really hope that the challenge to fulfill any of your wishes would be easy? If not, let me introduce you to the dragon hunt, the guide continued. That his time is unlimited, and he can spend as long as it takes to destroy this monster. As many people as you want can go to the next level. There is no limit. Just defeat this dragon. Kyle hoped that someone present would start acting right now, immediately. After all, even though there was no time limit, it would be nice if someone would start the trial already. All the people were in shock and bewilderment, not realizing what kind of monster was in front of them, and whether this guide was crazy to want them to fight a dragon of such a huge size. One of the guys realized, damn it, one wrong move and they'd all surely die in that place. But no matter how it went down, one of them had to start. Perhaps it's just a disguised trial in the guise of a dragon. The people were confused, not knowing whether to attack or defend themselves. But soon, they decided to act. However, the dragon was even more formidable than they thought. Anyone who tried to attack it was blown away by the wind generated by the beast itself. Kyle began to feel bad for the people, seeing how they were needlessly wasting their lives. But he couldn't intervene, as it was against the rules. One of the guys realized that just a little more, and he could do something against this monster. The young man was going to try to defeat the dragon and pass the test, so he immediately rushed forward. As he tried to strike the monster with his sword, he realized that he was unlikely to succeed now. As soon as the guy tried to strike the dragon with his weapon, the sword immediately broke and its shards scattered in different directions. Kyle could see without a doubt that all the people were trying their best, but they were succeeding rather strangely. The guide said regretfully, how sad it is to watch such struggles. It seems that no one will pass the test again this year, as in previous years. The boy wondered, when will the day come when we will have talents capable of slaying the greatest dragon? Perhaps it would be the same guys that God Lyrid himself had spoken of. Despite the people's best efforts, their attempts to defeat the majestic dragon remained futile. The monster easily threw its scales, made up of tough stones, at them, which were not easy to dodge. One of the young men hit by this hit was in trouble. He realized that he could no longer get back on track, and it looked like it was the end for him. But suddenly, the girl shouted to him, "Move aside!" She immediately wanted to stand up for the guy, doing everything she could to keep him out of harm's way. The young man was extremely surprised and couldn't understand who this mysterious beauty who protected him was. Lowering her blade, the girl said, "Let him pull himself together and get out of there. He's too weak to be in those ruins." The guy immediately apologized to her. "I'm sorry, since I really didn't mean to set him up." But the girl wouldn't listen to his excuses and immediately lunged at the dragon. She pushed off the ground to jump as high as she could to get a better look at the beast. It was a good view, but the dragon seemed even bigger. She didn't care, though. She believed she could pass the test. After all, she was confident in her strength and believed that she was capable of defeating any monster in her path. After all, she was not an ordinary person, as many people might think. The girl tried to strike the monster with her katana so that it would feel all her passion for battle. At this moment, the dragon felt the incredible damage inflicted upon it for the first time. The beast immediately swished its tail, preparing to strike back at the impertinent girl. The woman realized that she should be on her guard now, for it seemed to be the first time the dragon had sensed the danger coming from her. When the monster tried to hit her with its tail, someone suddenly appeared right in front of her. The girl didn't realize what was wrong. It turned out to be quite simple. A guy who managed to learn how to control magic came to her rescue. Using his abilities, he was able to hold back the dragon's tail and then struck the giant. The young man realized that he now had to demonstrate all the skills he had acquired over a long period of time as an ordinary boy. The girl actually said, "Not bad, but she could have done it herself." Kyle was amazed. "Wow, that's amazing. Looks like there was some talent this year after all." He hadn't seen a dragon give him this much trouble in a long time. The monster, having looked at these people, began to move more cautiously, realizing that among them there are bugs capable of inadvertently overpowering him. The guide began to realize that these two were showing great promise and might be able to pass the test. The main character, Dylan, added, "There really are a lot of incredible people to meet on the stairwell wall." He looked at the boy and wondered, could he really find a trio that could defeat this dragon? It was just a guess, though. The monster roared at full power, realizing that he should show his full strength now if he wanted to survive. After that angry roar, all the people on the ground fell, and a torrent of wind threw them right back against the wall. But Dylan, unlike the others, had no problem being able to stay on his feet and accept this flow, going against it. Kyle looked at this guy and clearly realized that he was definitely going to be unusual, just like the rest of them. The young man asked if he could join the others. Soon he was already approaching everyone very quickly, realizing that he was about to show off his abilities. The guy immediately ran up to the two men and introduced himself. His name is Dylan, after which he asked if he could get their names. And by the way, they were incredibly strong, he thought. The boy replied, "Brendan, it's nice to meet you." The young man immediately praised him. He, too, is very pleased to meet them all. Then he asked, "What about the girl? What's her name?" To which the girl replied, "It's too much of a rush to ask her name. Isn't he a little brash?" The boy wondered, why doesn't she want to talk to him? But then he thought that maybe she was just shy. Brendan confirmed, "She probably is." The girl gathered herself to act immediately, realizing that the dragon would not stand still. She flew as high as she could, realizing that now was the best moment to slay the monster. Jumping higher, she realized that if she stopped anywhere in the air, this dragon would immediately hit her, and she would fly right back into the wall. That was why the girl decided to act quickly and try to attack this dragon once more, to make it feel that it wasn't the strongest and most powerful monster around. Brandon, without wasting a second, tried to help the girl by applying his own magic. The young man was already trying to overpower this vile beast to make it realize that they would definitely be stronger than himself right now. Dylan didn't want to be left out either, realizing that he had to do something to help his friends. As he ran up close to the beast, the guy realized he had to make some kind of surrounding strike because he couldn't just stand by. Therefore, Dylan immediately used his ability, hitting directly against the ground to create a small earthquake around the dragon. He realized that it probably wouldn't be much use, but he could still at least get the dragon to stop where it was. The young man's punch was truly great, and even the beast himself, looking at the kid, realized that he had some incredibly high power. The dragon instantly moved closer to the boy. Dylan suddenly realized that he had slightly miscalculated the distance of the blow, causing the dragon to be unharmed at all. Even so, the young man wanted to show class, so this time he would end the monster with one powerful blow once and for all. The kid flew up to the creature and tried to punch it as hard as he could. He has accumulated all his power in one stroke, for he has not practiced in vain to get to such a place and present himself as the best player. So Dylan didn't hesitate and hit the dragon with all his might. The young man decided to at least touch the monster to try his luck, and maybe he would succeed. The dragon actually flew pretty far away from the kid from that blow, and apparently everyone else couldn't understand where someone like him got such incredible strength from. Dylan suddenly realized that he had managed to push the monster away after all. He was proud of himself, but wondered if he had hit it too hard. For if he had used a little more force, the dragon would have shattered into small pieces. Kyle had been watching the guys the whole time and realized that they apparently weren't so simple. He landed lower and said they did very well, but that this ordeal was over for them. Kyle noted that he had considered their impressive abilities and looked forward to seeing them in the future, for it seemed he had met the very talents that their god Lyrith was so diligently seeking. That's why he announced to all these guys that from this very moment on, they would be one team. Also importantly, the first stage of the B-Wing, the first test, only the 3 of them passed. They can also make it to the next level without any delays or other obstacles. After all, Kyle was finally convinced that the 3 of them really did count as the best he'd ever met, though of course it hurt about other people, but he was sure he'd still see worthy candidates in that pile. Kyle then asked them all to come closer to him, for right now he wanted them to go through the door in the middle. All the boys were surprised at the sheer size of the door, but Kyle repeated once more that they should go forward. Dylan said that the first trial was much easier than he thought it would be, but the next one should be more fun. He asked the others what they thought the next challenge would be like and if it would be harder than the last one. The girl immediately replied that he was too rowdy of a boy, but Brandon suggested that everyone stick together. Kyle also asked them just one question, to which the kid immediately inquired as to what it was. He asked why on earth they had come to the stair wall. All 3 of them turned around, surprised, not knowing what to answer, as each of them had a different goal in mind. Dylan answered first, saying he came to this place to become much stronger. The girl, on the other hand, confessed that she had come here because she needed to destroy someone powerful with her own hands. Dylan, along with Brandon, were very surprised because they didn't even expect that someone could come to a place like this with the purpose of destroying someone. Kyle immediately inquired about the 3rd contestant, asking what the guy in the middle wanted to accomplish in a place like this. At this moment, the young man was suddenly overwhelmed by memories, and he remembered the time when he and his brother were running away from the terrible monster. The kid realized that apparently the most traumatic event in his life was that very incident. He begged his brother to let him go, saying he had to save his father no matter what. But each time he only ran further and further away from the place, realizing that there was no point and it was very dangerous. Soon they were able to escape after all, and Dylan asked his brother John if he could have saved his father if he had been so much stronger. The young man added that he felt so useless. The brother quoted to the boy the words their father often repeated. He who is able to overcome pain and keep smiling becomes even stronger. The kid asked if his brother wanted to continue to protect the people he cared about. If the answer is yes, the brother suggested the boy become much stronger than he is now. The older brother promised that he too would become stronger and would be waiting for the younger one at the end of their journey, in the same place. He wished the boy to go beyond his own abilities and reach the edge of the world. The brothers agreed to meet when they both became what their father wanted them to be. The eldest emphasized that these were not just words, but a real promise. John turned to Dylan with these words. Since that day, the boy had been smiling constantly, eager to accomplish the goal set by his brother. And now he's standing in front of a stairwell wall, ready to face whoever he has to face. That's how John told the story to Kyle. The girl commented approvingly that they could now move on to the next stage. As the kid ran, he suggested to his friends that the question asked of him was also part of the challenge. Brandon agreed that it was quite likely. The young man reflected on the fact that neither riches, gold, silver, nor treasure can give a man the power to hold the world in his hands. Kyle realized that these 3 guys could make a difference in the world. Smiling, the kid realized that this young man, with God's help, could really get on the right path. The day was approaching when someone would reach the top of the staircase wall. While the boys were discussing this, they were wondering where they would end up in the near future. The friends had traveled a long way to get here, even defeating a dragon. Now they faced the challenge of climbing a huge ladder to the next level. The stairs were truly grand, and only God knows how long it would take the 3 boys to reach the 2nd floor. Brandon pointed out that this must be the transition to the next level, and it looked amazing. Dylan agreed, marveling at the height of the floor. The guy was instantly enthusiastic, realizing how cool and exciting it was. The buddies looked at their comrade carefully, making sure that he was indeed blazing with enthusiasm. The girl suggested running to the 2nd level to start running through it as soon as possible. She decided to ask the guy a question, waiting until he turned around and was ready to listen. The girl wondered if he trusted them too much. After all, there was a chance they would have to fight each other in the next level. So she asked him to stop pretending they were best friends. Unexpectedly, the guy replied that such a thing was indeed possible, though he thought to himself what a nuisance this girl was. As they ran, the boy asked the girl if she was wearing a cape or a jacket. Brandon confirmed that he was curious too, and they discussed whether they should buy one because it looked cool. The girl wondered what they were talking about at a time like this. Finally getting to the end, the guy admitted he wasn't tired at all and they did a great job. The young man lit up with the urge to open the door, anticipating something incredible. He made sure that all the tests would be peculiar. Kyle, who was already on the second floor thanks to his teleporting skills, praised the boys for successfully making it here, where the second stage test would take place. The friends stopped in town, wondering if it was a moulage or just part of the level. The kid announced to the group that the core members had arrived and they could begin the next challenge. He also introduced himself as a level 2 guide, ready to officially continue their ordeal. The boy enthusiastically remarked that this place was amazing, and the guide was a carbon copy of the level 1 guide. Brendan suggested that they must be twins. The young man assured them that the second level trials would be easy enough to pass. He explained that all they would need to do is do a little damage to each other. The wristbands they are given are sensors that start flashing to detect a hit, and the team gets 1 point. The point of the challenge was to see which team would score the most points. As the boys looked closer, they noticed that these bracelets looked incredibly cool. Kyle explained that the challenge is in a battle format between 2 teams of 3. To advance, a team needs to score at least 300 points in 60 minutes, whether they win or lose. If they can get the required number of points in the specified time, they will advance to the next level. The kid added that depending on the situation, both teams may move on or both teams may not. He believes that the conditions are clear, and they can start right away. After that, the 60-minute timer started, and the guy happily remarked that they were lucky to be on the same team. This was going to be fun. Upon landing on the ground, the boys were eager to meet their opponents. The boy was raring to go, eager to see who they were going to fight. Taking a closer look, he realized that the opponents were probably somewhere in that direction. The opposing team was guessing who they would get first, but either way, it should be exciting. The girl started discussing glasses, mentioning that everyone she'd met before had a 0 each. By this point, each of the allies and adversaries had found someone with whom they could compete with using various weapons. The girl curiously told the guy that she wondered how many points he would have at the end of the round. The young man laughed in response to her words and assured her that he would definitely not be bored with her. Meanwhile, another girl and a guy had already entered the battle, wielding something like a spear and a blade respectively. The kid smugly declared that he would win anyway, even fighting with one hand while keeping the other in his pocket. The girl accepted his challenge, and the young man realized that she seemed to want to make up since she was doing such things. But even so, the girl realized that she didn't care about showing off right now. So she began to fight in earnest, albeit with one hand. The girl was completely calm, confident in her ability to defeat this boy. She wasn't so sure about the others. The kid felt that something was wrong, for this girl was surprisingly strong. They were fighting each other now, and although there wasn't enough time to see everything in detail, the fight was quite intense. The girl asked the guy if he was going to stand in one place for much longer. The boy was unwilling to endure such humiliation, realizing that this girl was not fighting the way she should. She was wielding one arm, and he was trying his best not to fall foul of her. The kid declared that he would defeat her anyway since she was taunting him like that. At this moment, Brandon and the other boy began to fight using their level magic. The boy laughed and asked if this short man had nothing at all to boast about in front of him. He also wondered where Brandon had learned to dodge his punches so deftly. The boy set traps wherever Brandon went. He wondered why they called him short, since they were almost the same height. Brandon was outraged, realizing that he was being mocked, and set out to prove that they were indeed the same height. Why would he be called names? The boy smugly stated that Brandon's punches were insignificant against someone like him. He didn't ask to be tickled, so let his opponent not even think he could do anything to him. Even so, the short man turned around and saw that Brandon had decided to attack after all. The boy realized that Brandon must have just made an unfortunate move since he had anticipated the move. The kid told Brandon with a chuckle that he was certainly in dire straits, but that wasn't the case right now. He continued his taunting by stating that not only is Brandon weak in magic, but he's also a clumsy runt. Now that's news. The young man gradually realized that even though they were the same height, it didn't change anything. The opponent was stronger than him anyway. Brandon realized that since he'd been called clumsy, he'd have to do something else. The kid tried to justify himself by saying that he was still a beginner. That's why he was moving so clumsily. While these two were fighting, Dylan and the girl were also doing battle, and quite well at that. The young man dared to attack the girl, making every effort to impress her. But the girl ended up being much stronger than he expected. She easily punched him in the face. The kid tried to attack her again, hoping this time to repel her blow and strike back. The young man realized that it was getting worse with each attempt, so he should have pulled himself together and shown her what she deserved. The boy rushed forward, eager to express to the girl everything he thought of her, realizing that now everything depended only on him. The girl looked at him carefully, noticing that he was very serious. At that moment, they clashed fists, and it was clear that only after such a blow would it be clear which of them would be stronger. Suddenly, the kid wondered, why exactly did they slap each other's hand? Just then, the girl threw another punch, knocking the guy back. He shrieked, recognizing that he was getting nowhere. With each movement, he slid across the floor, realizing that it would be extremely difficult for him to do anything against her now. Taking another look at the girl, the guy noted with admiration that this fight was awesome. The young man laughed and recognized that she was indeed very strong since she was able to fight so skillfully against him. And yet, no matter how hard he looked at it, he realized that they had started off somehow wrong, because her skills were simply incredible. So the boy wondered what her secret was. The girl looked closely at her opponent and thought that most likely the reason for her superiority was due to the difference in their strength. She prepared to throw another punch to explain it to him more lucidly. The guy realized that his rival was really harsh since she wasn't even going to answer his question. The young man noticed as the girl began to rapidly approach him in huge, lightning-fast strides. The girl stepped up close to him and made some points clear after all. She demanded that he finally grow up. He realized that she must be furious since she was so eager to kill him. The young man flew a considerable distance away from her. Even though he knew it was only a training session, he still realized that this was no longer a joke. At this moment, his teammates were watching as this girl nearly knocked the guy out completely. She just watched and realized that he probably really wouldn't demonstrate anything special, as she had assumed at the beginning of the round. Still, there's a lot to discover on the stairwell wall after all, but she'll have to try harder still. The girl also added that she came to this place to see what she was even capable of and thought she was fighting others, but would only be able to realize the limit of her abilities if she faced a truly worthy opponent. She really didn't expect her first opponents to turn out to be worthless weaklings with no abilities, but with that ridiculous smirk on her face, it was one disappointment. What she found most disgusting was that he didn't just have 0 points, but far less, perhaps even so much so that he went into the minus side. At that moment, the girl pounced on him and said that she was sorry, but would have to wait for the next opponents to find out her true strength. The guy was very serious at this moment and realized that now he would be able to have fun, because he was sure that he would be able to show her his true power. The young man immediately apologized and said he was sorry if she didn't like his smile. But don't let her get so angry because that's his philosophy of life. The girl suddenly wondered if the guy had really lost his mind after she hit him, after which she instantly stepped back, realizing that the punch just missed its target. She also inquired of the lad what this curious principle of life was. But despite that, she still suggested that they fight seriously right now. The guy said that for what it's worth, she applied the defense enhancement at an extreme level. The girl was about to use her ghost blades, realizing that perhaps this young man would show his true strength after all. At that moment, the guy realized that she really did want to fight at full strength. This is going to be really interesting. That was why he decided that he himself wouldn't be lagging behind and would also fight to the best of his ability. At that instant, the young man immediately rushed forward and said that this time he would definitely hit her. For now they would be fighting fist against fist, and everything would only depend on strength. The girl at this point began to realize that something serious was about to happen. At the same time, Brenda was fighting against that short guy who kept calling her names. He laughed at him and said he looked so exhausted. Why didn't he just give up and then it would be over? To which the short man replied that no. It was another incentive for him to get stronger, so he wouldn't get tired at all. So in that same instant, he attacked the guy while he was shooting right at him. The young man realized that he would not give up without a fight, and would fight to the end. After that, Brandon, after creating magic discs, immediately launched them directly at the enemy. The guy only laughed at him, realizing that he was a funny brat since he was trying to do his best to defeat him even in such a peculiar way. But for what it's worth, even though he thinks he's smart, the guy still managed to kick those magic circles aside. and so sloppy that he almost hit a girl. At the same moment, the young man she was fighting attacked her. The girl wondered where he saw a blind spot. Isn't he acting like a coward of some sort on his own? The guy only snapped at the swordswoman to shut up and not comment on his movements at all, because sooner or later he would kill her. She wondered thoughtfully if he was really serious about this. The girl has no problem dodging his blows to demonstrate what she is capable of. After that, she immediately kicked him with her foot so that he wouldn't relax so much. She did realize that she might have gone a little overboard, but it would still be a lesson to the guy, that you should not underestimate your opponent just because he is not fighting at full strength. Though despite that, she also realized that he did seem to be completely lost in the realization that people could be stronger than himself. But the young man didn't care, and he only wanted to defeat her, saying that this is what he calls a fight. Let them not fight a swordswoman like her anymore. The girl looked closely at him and thought he must be obsessed with something similar, or even worse. At the same moment, the guy immediately tried to hit her shield once more and said that her defense was really solid, since he really couldn't penetrate it. Just as suddenly, the girl removed her defenses and hit him back. The young man was counting on it, so he had no trouble understanding what he should do next. Dylan tensed, so she didn't immediately realize what he was going to do to her next. But it came as a surprise to him that she jumped up too, and even higher than him. So he didn't anticipate such a moment and realized that things were probably about to go wrong. The guy still decided to seize the moment and kick her while she was in the air, even though he realized his leg was already hurting like hell. But despite the fact that he had hit her, she didn't care about that blow, and she was flying straight down. That was why contact with the ground was hard enough to avoid. The young man, of course, hit the ground, then did a little somersault to get to his feet in time. He managed to land after all, and his expression immediately changed from a smile to a rather stern one. Gradually, the guy began to realize that such battles he only dreamed about in his dreams, and now it's happening for real, and he can't believe that he still hasn't struck a single blow to this girl. The young man realized that she was truly an amazing person. Just as suddenly, he heard his girlfriend tell him that he was completely unable to read his opponent's movements, and that was bad. The girl, still fighting, told him not to be dumb and act according to his opponent's movements, and only then would he be able to defeat her. It's also the only way to withstand their attacks. While she was talking about it, the guy resented that he couldn't believe she was looking around during the battle. Was she really going to die so easily? The young man slowly began to understand her friend, so he wondered why she decided to help him now. After all, she had treated them rather coldly before. The girl only laughed and told him to make no mistake, because she was only helping him because they were now a team. At the same moment, the guy who was fighting her said to damn the swordswoman to focus on the battle. The young man slowly began to understand her and realized that he was indeed making a lot of mistakes based on her words. The guy started to realize and thought he would need to predict his opponent's next move and find a gap in his future actions. The girl began to move closer and closer to him, but he, in turn, tried to move farther away so he could think properly some more. This girl was hitting harder and harder, and the guy couldn't figure out how he could find anything resembling a loophole now. With each blow, the girl gradually moved closer to the young man, but he, in turn, tried to think of something else. And the best option for him turned out to be to simply step back and wait for the moment she lowered her shields. The guy couldn't stop thinking about what he would do in that moment. The girl came very close to him and told him that it was all useless against her, after which, once she got as close to him as possible, she immediately launched him into the air to keep him relaxed. After that, with swift movements, she came in from the other side, realizing that even if he predicted her movement, it still wouldn't work. Therefore, jumping up, she delivered a crushing blow. And on top of that, the girl also realized that he wouldn't be able to keep up with her speed. It would take him a very long time to attack her. The young man realized that now he would have to do his best to avoid a lot of blows. Except the tricky part is that this girl is unimaginably fast. His body was like a punching piñata because there was nothing he could do right now. And this girl just kept hitting him, thus increasing her points. The guy realized that he needed to focus, and only then would he be able to do anything at all. The young man bounced back, realizing he was going to have a hard time now. Taking a closer look at the girl, he realized that he would need to act very quickly and skillfully if he didn't want to die right there. Looking at this girl, the guy realized that she was extremely fast, and he wouldn't be able to give her a decent fight back. Her attack seemed almost inevitable. That was why he had a plan B. If things continued like this, he wouldn't be able to win, the young man pondered. Right now, he needed to use his best skill to defeat this girl. He stood still as she approached him at an incredible speed. In the end, all he had to do was overpower her. So the guy decided to put everything on the line, realizing that now he would do what he had previously planned. After all, right now he was going to take a hit and it would work perfectly. After that, he would immediately strike back. The boy instantly rushed forward, realizing it was now or never. Things were not going well, to be honest, so he had no choice but to use the reinforcement on his arm, and also apply a hovering fist with which he can return and immediately strike at this girl. But just as the kid was about to do so, the main host Kyle announced that the quest was over and asked them to stop fighting. Machechka began to rejoice, saying that it was finally over, just in time as he had previously anticipated. In that same instant, the guy realized what the hell it was that hurt. Kyle said that since both teams earned 300 points each, they both made it through this round regardless of the outcome. The girl stood motionless, realizing that she was about to find out how many times she was able to hit the opponent she was fighting. She also watched as her opponent unsuccessfully tried to punch her. It was over pretty quickly. While they were fighting, the boy even lost track of time. The young man laughed and said he was actually in pain. The girl stared at him, not understanding what was happening to him. She'd beaten him, and he was still acting like his usual self. As she looked closer at the blow he was about to deliver, though, she realized it was truly terrifying. And if the kid hit her, she'd be in trouble. She really didn't expect the boy to be so strong. Even the distant wall was seriously damaged by the airflow. The boy immediately informed the conductor that such a thing was unacceptable. He also wondered if they really had gotten to 300 points that fast. A little more and he would have been able to hit her. The girl only smiled and thought that if he did, she'd probably hoof it off somewhere nearby. Kyle congratulated the teams on passing and said they now had to go out the front door and up the stairs to get to the next level. The boy told the swordswoman that the next time they met, she would lose to him anyway. He also asked her to remember his name, Gara. He would be reminded of it each time, and would be the one who would surely defeat her. The girl thought about it and noticed that he had a rather odd name. The short man immediately went up to the guy and told him he had a good time. His name is Esseron, so don't let him take offense at the way they fought. He also added that he is really short and his name is Brandon. He hopes that they will meet again someday. The boy only laughed at that and said, okay, he'd say goodbye this time. The young man laughed at the situation and said he couldn't believe he never got to hit her once. So he immediately said that she was incredibly awesome at fighting and dodging. He also promised that he would definitely beat her next time. The kid made the promise to the girl, and then their team told him he was digging in there and didn't go on. Dylan immediately told the girl that, okay, they would see each other again a little later. Suddenly, she turned to Dylan, and he asked if she really wanted to say something to him. The girl told the guy that her name was actually Marina, and asked him what his name was in return. The boy only laughed and answered that his name was Dylan. It was funny that she showed such respect to him. But the girl added that, okay, Dylan, she wanted to ask him a certain question, and that question was why he had come to a place like this. The young man wondered if everyone in a row would ask why they were coming to a place like this. The guy decided to say he would have to meet someone after all. The girl suddenly thought about it and noticed that that last punch had been a really good one. She was really surprised that he could do that. So she wished that he would become even stronger, and maybe they would meet again. She also extended her hand to him and told him that she would forgive him for being rude in the beginning, and let him have fun going towards the same goal she had. Most importantly, the girl added, let them meet at the very end one more time. The kid, laughing, shook her hand after all and said that yes, he thought they should get closer sometime. He also turned to her and told her that he would become much stronger. Just let her be ready. The girl, in turn, looked at him closely and began to understand why this kid was so cheerful. In fact, he was very happy to be in a place like this. Kartoshka told Marina to get on their way or they'd be late, to which she replied that yes, let's go after all. It was after this incident that the girl realized that she would remember him well. After all, Dylan is really a very funny guy, and she hopes that soon they will meet. The kid told all the guys lets them go to the next stage, to which his friend replied that they could go right now, and wow, the girl is with them. Kyle thanked them for their understanding and asked them to return the bracelets. The guys replied that they could keep climbing, right? Kyle said yes, let them go higher. The kid was the first to dare open that door and realized that apparently the further it went, the worse it got. The stairs they took to the next floor didn't look the same, but still, the young man realized that okay, let them keep going upstairs like a real team after all. The girl suddenly asked what made him think they were a team. They just teamed up just because of the test. The kid also turned to her and told her that she actually helped him a lot last time. To which she replied that she only did it because he got his ass kicked. The boy only laughed and said, "Okay, stop denying it." She had helped him no matter what happened. She suddenly wondered why he was always so cheerful. The unknown voice said that they had done a good job of getting through the second floor. Dylan immediately asked the boys where the voice was coming from. The voice said his name was Kay, and he was a third-floor guide. The boy asked if the man was supposed to be somewhere nearby. Kay tells them that the third quest starts at the end of the stairs, and the first hurdle is to get to the test site. And speaking of which, he wishes to see them all safe and sound. Soon the young man realized that apparently the exit was closer than last time, and it must be the entrance to the third floor, the kid thought. He said the next place will be even better than the previous ones. After all, they had just found themselves in some sort of nature emulator. The further they went, the more amazing the places became. How did they even manage to create a forest in a place like this? The boy wondered. He also noticed that there are even clouds in such a place. How is that possible? Brandon replied that the space inside the stairs has a different environment than the outside, and he has heard that there are even some areas where it snows. Dylan said that he really knew a lot about such places. He even got a little embarrassed and answered that he just read a lot of books, so he knows. And besides, he, like Dylan, doesn't know much. The boy immediately asked the blonde what she was even doing. And she told him to mind his own business. She had no reason to stay where she was. The young man told her that hell, they might as well all climb further together. But instead she told him to stop following her. Suddenly, all together, they noticed something unusual. He asked what it even was. Brandon told the guy that it looked like a big door somewhere in the distance. The girl didn't know what they were talking about, as she thought they were going to split up after all. Soon they noticed something unusually large nearby. Dylan asked what it even was, to which Brandon replied that it was a creature that was heading toward them, must be living on the third stage. The boy, laughing, said that they needed to defeat this monster to get past the third floor. He realized that it would be great, because he was sure it would be very interesting to fight such creatures. Suddenly, however, they did focus as the monster began to approach them rather quickly. But suddenly, they weren't expecting what they saw. That monster was just gone in an instant. He was killed by someone unknown. Taking a closer look, Dylan couldn't understand what had just happened. At one point, the kid finally said what he had been waiting to say for so long. There was no way the girl could see the stranger standing in front of her. The young man, without wasting a moment, confessed that he had always believed in this meeting on the landing, and now he was immensely glad that his expectation had not been in vain. Dylan was surprised to see a stranger around them, and wondered if he was on his way to the test site. The girl did not hesitate to ask if his name was Cayman, to which the boy immediately inquired if she really knew him and was his friend. Cayman explained to her that he wanted to ask her to go quietly with him, but realized it would be a waste of words and decided to check with her to see if his reasoning was correct. The girl, upon reflection, still answered the question with a question to a question. Since when did he become so rude? But the guy took one look at her and realized that a peaceful solution didn't seem to be in sight. Without thinking long, the kid lunged right at them, apologizing and saying he'd have to grab her by force. Dylan wondered, was this guy attacking them? At the same instant, hands began to appear from the ground, eager to grab our travelers. The girl, noticing this, realized that she was in for a real treat, because by the looks of it, he was after her. Soon Cayman was right behind the girl's back. Instantly, he handcuffed her so she couldn't use her power. What was also unexpected was that there were many minions near this guy, one of whom was using a sand trap. The girl was really quite frightened, for she did not even expect them to be so well prepared for such actions. One of the servants said that if she agreed to go quietly with them, they would personally escort her without any danger. She was indignant. Damn it. Damn cowards don't want to fight fair and resort to tricks. The young man was about to explain himself and said, okay, let them finally move on. Dylan asked these people where they were even going. He was also outraged and wondered what they were doing to their comrade. Suddenly, he noticed an unusual emblem on one of these servants. While the boy urged everyone to stop immediately, Brandon held Dylan back to tell him something important. The boy turned around and asked what was the matter, for they must catch up with these people and save their friend. The kid reported that these guys are Terry's knights. The young man inquired as to what kind of knights they were in general. Brandon explained that Terry is a kingdom that will go to any lengths to accomplish their goals, and they are the knights of that kingdom. That's why he suggests taking your time to run after them, because there's no telling what will happen to them if they get caught up in all of this. Dylan thought the boy was going to say something important, but he only offered to continue on his way, to which Brandon objected that they still had a test to pass. The kid suddenly wanted to share his thoughts with his friend, even though he wasn't sure how he felt about it. Being a boy who tends to protect everyone and give smiles, he wasn't going to pretend like he didn't see what had just happened in front of him. Most importantly, he thinks the blonde isn't a bad girl and is willing to save her by all means. The boy looked closely at Dylan and realized he might have said too much, but still decided to help and go along with him. In that case, they would not stand still, but would catch up with the fugitives before they got too far away. These same ninja knights tried to get as far away from that place as possible, hoping that the young lady's journey was comfortable. After all, they must return to the castle where the king awaits her arrival. Being the greatest daughter and princess of tennis, it is her duty to be in the kingdom. Since childhood, the girl has been told that she must be a strong heir to her country, so it is her duty to do her best to get better and better every day. The little girl only wondered why she was born a princess and why she was given such a responsibility. They got far enough away from that location and realized that this location would likely be suitable for further action. They gathered in a small circle, talking about how they needed to hurry now. Cayman, as the head, needs to make sure the princess gets home as soon as possible, and they also need to leave the place before the guardian arrives. Suddenly, someone from the forest asked, "Where are those rascals hiding?" Cayman immediately asked the princess if it was really them and her companions. The girl instantly realized that this fool had already had enough of her. The young man shouted loudly, "Hey, can it finally show itself already?" The kid was slightly surprised to realize that he was actually quite close. The boy began to look closely at everyone present and realized where they were actually hiding. The young man uttered, of course he wasn't sure who he was, but if the truth was going to really interfere with them, he wouldn't just stand by. Delane replied mockingly, "What an arrogant samurai they've gotten." That guy motioned at him and declared, "That they can still run away, so let's have them do it now." The young man asked, "Are they really so stupid that they think he'll just take off and run away?" He also added, "Since that's the case, he'll fight the captain first and see how it goes." The girl realized that this kid was really an idiot since he dared to attack respectable knights like them. Cayman turned to the boy. He recognizes his bravery, but let him not forget that he is the one who is alone now. The guy also noted, coming to a place like this without support is actually pretty stupid. But the man only smiled and asked, "Did you really think he had come alone?" Cayman immediately suspected something wrong, because come to think of it, there were originally two of them. The girl uttered, "Did he seriously think he had come there all alone?" It was all planned out and Brandon just shot it so his partner could push off. The guy didn't expect this kid to turn out to be not as stupid as he seemed at first glance. The young man immediately asked, "Help him again, please." Someone responded instantly, "It will help now." In the same instant, the chains fell from the girl's hands, and she realized she could use her weapon again. The young man was deadly serious and realized that this was their last chance to escape. Soon the guy managed to grab a katana from one of his opponents and realized that now they could show who was in charge. The boy grinningly asked his buddy, "How did he like the performance?" Alish looked at him and replied, "Okay," he admits, "that was a good trick." The blonde was still displeased and stated, "They are still idiots, for it is useless." The young man told her, "They had come all this way together. Maybe they could still find common ground at least for a little while before this?" She said thoughtfully, "Traveling together doesn't make sense anymore, so don't even count on it." The kid apologized to her and confessed, he's already attached to him, so he's not going to let her get hurt, no matter how much she disowns him. The girl replied, "He'd better take care of himself first, and then the others." But the boy pointed to the katana and added, "Of course, he's not sure, but this thing he's holding in his hand seems to belong to her." He also honestly admitted, he doesn't fully understand what happens in a situation like this, but I wish him luck. The girl adjusted herself, took the katana in her hands and said, "Okay, she's really going, but he'll accept her offering." Cayman turned to his squad. He would only need 2 as well, the rest could move on. He also added, "Plus, he'll be able to deal with this girl one-on-one. And the rest of us, in turn, can finish off those 2 kids who think they are heroes," the commander ordered. Soon a small skirmish broke out between them, and each began to prepare for their next moves. The guy realized, these guys think they can beat them. It's pretty stupid of them to think that. The girl realized, okay, let these 2 try to fight, but right now, the main thing is to confront the leader. That guy said, sorry to disrespect him, but they are forcing him to do this. He apologized again to Princess Tennis. Hopefully, he wouldn't blame him too much at the palace for that. The girl pulled out her katana and declared to Cayman, he would not back down, even though he was her father's commander. She uttered, That's enough of that. It ends right here and now. The boy looked closer and realized that the princess seemed to be serious. The young man was extremely surprised, for he had never seen the princess use such monstrous power against her own allies. The girl applied the defense enhancement in extreme mode as well as the Blade of Agony. The commander-in-chief realized his fatal mistake of fighting the princess seriously. It must be realized that he has no choice. Therefore, no matter what, he had to get her to the palace at all costs. Dylan, fighting, was very much surprised by this girl's abilities, for he had not seen anything like this before. Of course, along with him, Brandon was also quite amazed. The commander-in-chief realized, damn it, she was even stronger than she was before. What should he do with such strength now? The girl, grinning, said, he is already imagining what will happen if he fails the task. The king would definitely be upset. Guy turned to Princess Tennis, saying that she was always stronger than everyone else. He also added, but all the while he has been training hard to achieve even a fraction of Princess Tennis's strength. The girl took a closer look at him and began to look at him with disdain, realizing that he was unlikely to succeed. She would be interested to watch him try, though. The young man immediately strengthened the defense on his sword composed of sand. He began to attack, realizing that if she didn't hold back, he would fight at full strength as well. The girl slowly began to understand why the king had chosen this particular guy as commander. She continued to defend herself, realizing that the best option now would be to destroy the enemy standing in her way. So the princess decided to seize the moment and do everything she could to defeat this guy. The two tried to move as carefully as possible around each other, not wanting to cause serious bodily harm. While it might seem from the outside that there was nothing safe here, they still tried to proceed carefully. At one point, the girl just let go of the katana, which the man didn't expect at all. She then immediately grabbed the sword with her other hand and tried to strike. The guy, not expecting this, jumped up high to avoid the attack. The girl didn't hesitate and continued throwing punches. She decided to go up higher with him and fight there to find out which of the two of them had gotten stronger. The boy realized that all his efforts would probably be useless against the princess. But no matter what, he had to do something to overpower her. Even after he defended himself, the girl continued to ruthlessly attack him. The young man felt that it was getting harder to fight with each movement. He also realized that apparently all his training was in vain, for the princess moved amazingly and he might not stand much of a chance. The princess asked him, "Is he done warming up?" "She's been ready for a while." The young man tried his best and asked, "Also, don't let him look at him with that serious look, please." The girl realized that even these pebbles would definitely not save him. Soon these same pebbles turned from ordinary stones into fiery fireballs. Oh shit, that's not going to stop the girl anyway, the guy thought. Each time she came closer and closer, she decided to try her luck to overpower him with a single blow. They switched to each other, realizing that this was where it would end now. Just as suddenly, a kid intervened in their little fight and said they shouldn't continue. He approached and stated that he needed them for something else. The girl was very surprised that this man had stopped their blows with a cotton wand. She just couldn't understand how he managed to stop her blade with a cotton wand. The guy said, "So he was able to stop her after all. That's the end of it. Well, then it's only for the best." He also wondered, is this kid really a bodyguard? He didn't look much like a candidate. Suddenly his acolytes turned to him. They reported that the portal leading to the kingdom had been opened. The young man uttered, "It can't be helped. He'll be back to get her next time. So let Princess Tennis, don't relax too much," the boy warned. The boy shouted, "They must retreat! Everyone into the portal quickly!" Brandon was very surprised that they suddenly ran away. Dylan was also shocked that they all suddenly decided to just leave the battlefield. They wondered, did these guys really come through the portal to this very place? The guardian was asked what had just happened, to which he replied, "Oh, nothing much happened." The girl wondered why the guardian was so late. "They're just having a little sparring session between the newbies. He'll be right back." The guardian sighed and said, "Be that as it may, it will be very difficult to raise them. Children are nothing but trouble these days." The boy wondered who they were and immediately realized that he must be the very guardian. Besides, he is present on every floor. Dylan immediately realized what he was doing and decided to praise him. It must be cool to be the guardian of all the floors. He laughed and replied, "Yeah, he'd talk some more, but he's got other things to do." The guardian also noted, by the way, he had heard that there wasn't much time left until the end of the test, so they had best hurry up. After that, he wished them good luck. The boy was immediately surprised. "Wow, can they all fly? How cool is that? Will someone teach me how to fly someday?" Brandon reminded his friend. "They really should get going. because the door is really going to close soon. The boy asked, "What happens when it closes?" Brandon explained, "When the door closes, they won't be able to get to the next level. So it's worth hurrying there as soon as possible." The boy was greatly surprised and asked in what sense they would have to hurry. After all, they couldn't just stay where they were and admire the views of these forests. After some thought, he realized there was nothing he could do and told the redhead that they would go ahead after all. The boy turned to the girl, asking why she was staring at him. He told her to go, or they would all be late for the test. The girl suddenly wondered and asked why they had decided to help her, since they had found out she was a princess. The blonde immediately asked the boy why he didn't ask for details, as it would have been quite important information for him. Turning around, the kid was surprised and questioned what she was even talking about. She asked him why he was acting like nothing had happened, since she had seen everything that had happened just a short time ago. The girl emphasized that it was no small thing to note all this mess around Gaima and his subordinates' attempts to kidnap her. Besides, should they wonder what was going on around them at all and why everyone had decided to hunt her specifically? The boy replied that that was it, but also added that he didn't want to ask her for some reason. And besides, why should he be interested? She got a little angry and asked him what he meant. If he was helping her out of pity, he would regret it. He answered her that he was not in this place because he was interested in her past. So he had no reason to ask her about such things. The girl was in a complete stupor and couldn't understand why they weren't asking for any information about it at all. The young man smiled and told her that she must have been through a lot, but still didn't understand anything. He explained that he is here because she seems like a good person to him. That is why he wants to protect her and do his best to get along with her. The girl looked at him closely, not realizing if this kid was weird or if he was really that honest. After those sincere words from the boy, she suddenly had a memory of the princess doing something similar someday. The memories were horrible, and said that one day she would meet people who would look at her not as a princess but as a person, and they would appear very soon. In that catastrophe, all he was saying was that she would only move forward with them. She would have to do it for one thing, their majestic kingdom, and also for her own sake, for as a person she must show and demonstrate selflessness to those who are worthy and will want to protect her. The boy told all the boys that now they should move out even faster to make it in time. Suddenly, a girl announced that her name was Tennis. The young man apologized to her and asked her again what she was saying since he couldn't hear. The girl reminded him that he had asked her name, hadn't he? She said her name was Tennis Jean Arden, which was her name. The boy was greatly surprised and thought that since she told her name, it was a good sign. But while she was sad and reminiscing, the kid said they really had to go or they'd be late. Soon he called out to Tennis to come with them or they wouldn't make it in time. The girl was glad that she was finally starting to move forward and that she was no longer a princess, but just a real Tennis. These guys quickly started moving forward and didn't even notice that they had already run quite a distance. Suddenly, Brandon decided to say something to Tennis that she took notice of. The boy confessed to her that in fact, the last time he'd come to rescue her, he'd been asked by Dylan to follow him. He also admitted that he had hesitated for a while as he wanted to attack them all with Dylan. As he spoke, the boy looked at him and thought that Brandon had really made up his mind to be honest. Brandon added that if someone was in trouble, he would have to help them, but admitted he didn't mean what he did, so he apologized to his friends. The girl understood that he was really having a hard time, so she accepted the situation. She told him that they had both acted very foolishly in coming to save a man they hardly knew, but still thanked them for the act.
Pet the cat.